Hello, this is Rocky Patel of Pranic Lifestyle, and today I want to tell a little bit about, how I first got into meditation and healing and, energy healing and all this stuff. When I was a little kid, I used to see like stuff, like energy moving around, and like if I'd be laying in my room, I would be seeing things moving around, like energy type stuff. And then when I tried to look, it would like disappear. And so basically, I was just seeing things like that are floating around energetically with like my chakras, not my physical eyes. And I didn't understand what was going on. And then I was telling my mom, and it's like, oh yeah, go to the eye doctor, and they're like, oh, there's nothing wrong with you. And then I think it kind of disappeared. Maybe I guess I was still seeing the stuff, but and then I remember when I was in the classroom at school, all the other kids would be doing math and reading, and I'd be sitting there staring at the mobile that's hanging from the roof, the things that or the ceiling, the things like this kind of float around, and they're held by a mobile, and I'd be trying to move it, like make it go this way and that way, and then when I was in high school, I got a book from Bruce Lee called The 1-Inch Punch, and he talked about moving energy, using energy, and like for self-defense. And some people might use for offense, but and I was already a black belt at that point, and so I never misused that stuff because I kind of understood about the law of karma. And my take on the law of karma was like, you might beat up somebody one day, but then you might be later somewhere without your posse, and they had their posse, and they're gonna get back at you. So that was like my idea of like karma. But as far as like the 1-inch punch, it basically, it's like an energy technique that puts energy into people that might not be so good, when you hit them. And he taught like a public technique. He didn't even teach the real technique because it's too dangerous for people to be doing it. And I never once thought about ever using it. But it was basically moving energy around. And he was talking about using green energy, green light, whitish green energy, and moving it around in your body and stuff. So that was like my first taste of like moving energy around and meditation. And I'd experiment with different types of devices and visors, and just put this thing on your head, and it'll balance your brain and all this stuff. And then I started meditating. Even before that, I started meditating regularly. Like when I was driving in my car, I would be looking off into the distance, and then I could see the aura around trees. Right? Like, there's like a halo type energy around trees, and anybody can do it. You basically just look at a tree, but you look above it and over it and off into the distance and relax. And then you'll see like this band of energy show up around the tree, and that's the aura of the tree. And so that's when I first started noticing, wow, I'm seeing energy here. And then there was also like a little bit of mind reading, where I kind of could sense what people are thinking, or like say something, or Jeopardy. I'd be watching Jeopardy, and I would know the answers to questions. And at that point, I was doing meditation. I was like, okay, every morning when I wake up, I need to do 20 minutes of just sitting still. And this was without any mantras, without any, accessories or anything. And it's tough to sit there for 20 minutes. Because, usually it takes 10, 12, 15 minutes to reach that point of like stillness and calm. And so I was like, okay, every day I need to meditate for 20 minutes. And I would notice my day and my thoughts were much more pure. And at that time I was having like some negative thoughts, like a lot. And I was like, I noticed when I meditate in the morning, I'm not thinking that stuff. And the day goes by much faster. Not faster, but like easier. And the things I need to get done like almost effortlessly. And so I was like, wow, the meditation stuff really helps. And then I had got into Reiki level 1, and they had this Reiki circle thing, and they would get like everybody on a bed, like not a bed, massage table, and then like get like 5 or 6 people to lay around the person and do Reiki on them. And basically, the Reiki's like physical, touching people and stuff. And I was like, okay, this is cool. And then I took the Reiki 1 class, and I was like, okay, this is cool. And I started doing healings on my mom and stuff, because she had like stress and like some other issues. And then one day I was reading the New Age newspaper, and I'm flipping through the paper, and then I see this hand with the energy coming out, like little balls of energy coming out. I was like, oh, that's cool. Either having a class, in my city, and I was like, okay, I'll take this. And I had a buddy of mine come with me, and I walk in the room, and this is my first exposure to the work of Master Choco Sui in this lifetime. I walk in the room, and Master Stephen Cole was doing a healing on a kid that had ear problems, that couldn't hear out of the ear. And I was like, wow. And he's like really going to town on this kid, like really just cleaning and like scanning. Like, I'm like, and the whole, there was like, it was a small class, but everybody was just watching him. It was before the class started. And I had just walked in the room. I'm like, whoa, that's pretty cool. This cat's healing, a little kid, like kids and stuff. This is pretty cool. And especially like, stuff that can't be healed. Like ear problems, like bringing people's, helping with their hearing and stuff. And I went through the weekend, and they had this Om CD that Master Choco Sui had, where he's just chanting the mantra Om, and it says when you play it, it'll purify your environment and basically cleanse and energize your chakras. I was like, cool, let me grab this thing. Bought it and turned it on at home, and wore that thing out. I mean, it took a while, but like had it on playing all the time, and I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. And then I was like, wow, I'd like to do this type of work for a living, for income. And I was like, wow, I want to sell these CDs. Let me see if I can buy them wholesale. And I remember calling Master Glenn and Marilla's house in New York, and they're, I don't know if it was Reggie or they had another helper. But you call the number on the back of the CD, and it's like somebody's like, hello. And like every time I call to order a box of CDs, Master Glenn and Marilla weren't around. And this was like 1996. They weren't home or whatever. And so I kept calling, and it was like, and so eventually I didn't end up buying the box, but I continued on with that path, and I think Master Cole came back once or twice to Kansas City, and then I found out that Master Choco Sui, which is Master Cole's teacher, was going to be in St. Louis, Missouri, which is a 4-hour drive from where I lived. I was like, cool. He's teaching this Arhatic yoga and clairvoyance. And it's probably more the clairvoyance that like drew my attention, like seeing energy or seeing the future or whatever. I didn't really know what to expect. So I grabbed my map, and all I knew was the event was at the Maria Center in St. Louis, and it's by the Mississippi River. And that's all I knew. I was like, okay, it's in St. Louis and it's by the river, this place called Maria Center. And I didn't even have an exact, I mean, St. Louis is a very big city. And so I was like driving, the 4 hours there. And then I got there. And then the first stop I made, like right when I was in, really close to the area, I had stopped within like a mile or two of where the event was without knowing where the event was, really. I was like, okay, it's here, somewhere in the city. And I drove the 4 hours on the highway, and then I was driving in different highways in St. Louis, and then I was like, decided to stop. Maybe I should ask directions. So I stopped, and I was just within a mile or two of where the actual event was. I was like, wow, this is divinely guided. This is divinely guided that, I was able to come and without knowing where the place was to like actually come that close. And then, they had the class started, and Grandmaster Choa was talking about energy and chakras and Kundalini meditation, inner breath and stuff. And, he had the clairvoyance class at nighttime. And, I was into it. I was cool. I was loving it. And in the clairvoyance class, he had given us a Shakti pot, a clairvoyant Shakti pot, which is like a blessing. And we're all sitting on the floor, and, he's walking around and he's like touching people's heads with his ring. He's like, kind of like the mafia don, like here, but nobody was like kissing or anything, but like this kind of like rubbing it on their head, and you would, just touch your head to it. And I remember when he got to me, he touched my forehead here, and I saw a flash of light, and I was like, whoa, this cat's got the juice. That was my exact thought. I was like, this cat's got the juice. This is the real deal. This guy's for real. And then from then on, I was like hooked. And so I think I bought some more CDs. They had the meditation on Twin Hearts and some cassette tapes and stuff like that. And so I bought the Twin Hearts, and I went home. And then like the next weekend, they're like, oh, it's going to be in California. And I was like, I was going to drive from, to California. But I ended up not going, though. But I should have went. And then I continued to take classes from Master Ko, because he kept coming to the Midwest and to Kansas City. And then I started taking advanced pranic healing and the psychotherapy. And I was like, wow, this stuff is really, really cool. And then I got a flyer in the mail about a prosperity class, it's called Kri Shakti and Feng Shui, that Master Choa was teaching in LA. And it was like, at that time, it was like, oh, it's going to be $1,200, for the class or something. And I was like, and plus hotel and airfare. So what happened was, like, me and my friend, who I brought to the first class with Master Ko, we were like, okay, we're going to go, but we didn't have the money saved. But it was like, okay, we'll start an account, or we'll start like a fund, and we'll just keep putting money in the fund, until, because it was like a couple months out, or 6 months, I can't remember how far it was, but it was like, okay, start saving the money, register, and not even paying yet, but just registering, getting the flight paid for, and then saving up the cash for the workshop. And I remember we show up in Orange County, and the event's in Santa Monica. At that time, I had no clue like how big LA was. It was basically 2 hours away, and I was like, nobody wanted, none of the taxi drivers, nobody was like wanted to like give us a ride. They're like, oh no, it's like way over there. But eventually we found somebody to take us over there. And, we paid them a lot of money and stuff. But I remember we walked into class, and they was teaching the Kree Shaki and Feng Shui, and I was like, wow, this is really, really cool. And he was talking about manifesting stuff and using energy and purifying yourself, and like how to set up your house the right way so energy flows, and like which way your door should face and sleep and all this stuff. I was like, wow, this is really cool. And so they had this one technique. It's kind of similar to like a vision board type thing, where I was trying to manifest beautiful women, basically. And there was a model at the time, Cindy Crawford. Like, basically she was on every young guy's wall, basically, and on the cover of all the magazines, Cindy Crawford. And so I had the poster of her. I think I might have already had the poster, or I bought it, just to have that energy, and on my wall. And I remember writing, Master Cho gave us a certain technique for writing sentences to make our goals and wishes come true. And I'd put on the back, like, so happy I found a girl like Cindy something, and some other stuff, and I put it on my wall, and then I forgot about it. And then I think it couldn't have been more than a couple months, I met this girl named Cindy. Cindy Crawford was the girl on the poster. And then I met a girl named Cindy. And then later, when I was thinking about it, Master Choa Koksui was like, in the next workshops, was asking about, who's been using the techniques. And I was like, oh yeah, I use it to manifest this girl, and she was named just like the girl in the picture. And so I was like, cool, this stuff worked. And I wasn't grinding and struggling to manifest it. It was, I had the thought, and I didn't doubt the thought. I just wrote the thought and didn't think anything of it. And then next thing you know, it manifested. So I was like, wow, this is really, really cool. And then, I continued to fly all over the country to see Master Ko for weekend workshops. They're basically just Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. A lot of times just Friday or Saturday and Sunday. So I'd fly to LA from Missouri like all the time just for the weekend. And I'd go and take the classes, or if it was anywhere in the Midwest, I would drive, or fly Chicago, St. Louis, Columbus, Ohio. Took a bunch of workshops in Columbus, Ohio. And then I continued to see Grandmaster Choa Koksui. He kept coming every year to St. Louis. And then so I was like, I'm just going to follow this guy around and do as many classes as I can. And I was like, in usually November, he would go on his North American tour. He would usually start in Canada and then go to like New York, St. Louis, LA, and then sometimes Vancouver on the end there. And so, once I discovered the schedule, I was like, wow. So every year, that was my routine. I'd go to, all the classes in North America, weekend after weekend after weekend, taking these classes. And then I discovered also, then he comes in the summertime a couple times to New York and to LA. And then in the wintertime, in February, he usually had retreats, which is like a more intense workshop, typically at a resort with a pool, swimming pool, and he would bless the pool. We'd all swim in it. But I remember my first retreat was in the Poconos in New Jersey, and we go to the retreat, and I remember Master Choa, he blessed the swimming pool, like made the pool like holy water basically, and all the students were given the option to go in, and most of them went in, and he was actually swimming with us in the pool. He rarely didn't, actually went in the pool with us, but that time he was swimming around with us, and I was like, wow, this is really cool. I feel so clean. And then, he had been blessing water too, like bottles of water. And I remember I asked him to bless some bottles of water for me. And I was like, wow, this is really cool stuff. We got blessed water. We got this and that. And then, I was spending a lot of money traveling around, like doing this stuff. And one time I was in Canada, in Victoria, for a big old retreat and convention, Wesak celebration. And I saw these people selling tea tree oil. And they brought a big old tray of tea tree oil to Master Choa Koksui. And he blessed the oil, and then they were selling it. And I was like, bell went off in my head. I'm like, that's the ticket. That's what I need to be doing. I need to be selling stuff too and making money like that. That's like amazing. And so then the next event, I think it was in the summertime, there was a retreat in Beaumont, California. I think it was Beaumont, California. And I had been building up my inventory. I had started with eucalyptus oil. I got a drum of eucalyptus oil, bottled up, I think 200 bottles of eucalyptus oil, and then I had some amethyst necklaces and pink quartz necklaces and ginseng and garlic pills. Master Choa Koksui recommended taking ginseng because it contains lots of red and gold energy, and it's really helps cleanse and energize the chakras in the physical body. And the garlic has orange energy, so it helps purify and expel stuff. And so I show up with all these products, and I asked Master Choa to bless them. And I had him on a chair in the back of the room. I was like, hey, Master, can you bless these? He looked down at it all, and he was like, he kind of hesitated. He was like, and then he ended up doing it, blessed it all. And then now I was off to the races because I had a table in the back. And I was like, hey, I got all these oils and stuff. They're blessed by Master Choa Koksui. And then they sold like hotcakes. And he blessed everything I had, my crystals, everything. And so it sold like hotcakes. Then I was like, I'm in business. And in that weekend I made like over $3,000. And I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. Plus I paid for my hotel and my expenses. And I was like, wow, I'm hooked. This is what I want to do. And then so I would go to event after event after event, whether it's pranic healing or like Arhatic yoga, Kriya Shakti, and I'd normally have a table with all the goods on it. And every event, I'd have to go and get Master Choa and have him come over and come bless our table, bless the stuff. And sometimes he would bless everybody's stuff. There'd be other people with stuff, and he would just bless everything. But normally I would have him bless my table, and he knew my routine. Like every event I would show up to, I would ask him to bless stuff. And so I was known as the guy that had like blessed stuff. You want eucalyptus, you want crystals, you want herbs. And then I added like lavender oil and then tea tree. And it was like a huge hit. And then I added incense. And then so I just kept traveling around, meeting with Master Choa and getting to spend time with him privately, between the classes, on the breaks, going to dinner. He really liked martial arts, like karate, kung fu, and taekwondo, and just martial arts in general. And so all the time on the breaks, he'd have us like spar, like just throwing kicks at each other, or kicks at him, or like, trying, hey, come run at me, and he'd throw us on the ground with energy, and like, So he really loved the martial arts stuff. And, sometimes he'd be trying to push me with energy and like all kinds of experiments. And so I really got to like, get to know him, and started learning about aromatherapy like directly from Master Choa. Because aromatherapy crystals or essential oils have different colors in it. Like tea tree's predominantly green, and eucalyptus is orange, and lavender's got these colors in it, and rose oil has got this, and then so I started learning from Master Choa and Master Ko like different colors in the oil, and what they do and all this stuff. And so I built up my whole product line, and I didn't even have a website or anything at that time. I was just going to events selling stuff, and I had built up a huge clientele. And like in, I don't know, it was like 2004, 2005, I had the idea to write the book, aromatherapy book, and I had started writing it already. And then Master Choa was like, we should write this book together and have a product line. And I used to help Master Choa Koksui, market his aura spray, and so I got to learn all about how to bless oils and like the different oil combinations, and and so he's like, yeah, we should have our own product line and a book and everything. And then but he left his body maybe less than a year after that, so I had to continue on my own with the project, which I did publish a few years later, and it was called Golden Aromatherapy. And he had given me that name. He's like, hey, call it Golden Aromatherapy. And at that time I had it like Golden Body Aromatherapy or Golden Body International. And the Golden Body is just basically it's a high level meditations and techniques that turn your body into gold, basically, or gives you more gold. And he was like, oh no, it's called the golden aromatherapy. He thought I might have been too esoteric, or maybe I'm giving away secrets or something. And I had been known as the guy that had all the blessed oils, and Master Choa Koksui was physically blessing stuff for me. And I remember some of the events I would show up with drums of oil and lay them in the. He had a blessing table, and he would like bless me on the table and all the stuff laid out. And but then later he had passed, and I'm like, what am I gonna do now? I'm known as the guy that has the blessed stuff. Master Choa's blessing on it. How am I gonna continue with that? And he had his companion, Charlotte Anderson. She shared some stuff with me to be able to continue that energizing stuff with Master's blessing. And I was like, thank you, Master. Now I can continue here. And so I continued with it, wrote the first book, and then started selling crystals too, like the healing crystals. And I got really big at selling those crystals. And then I just continued meditating, the recordings of Master Choa Koksui, because that's where the power is like in his voice, in the audio video recordings. So I continued on the path, continued going to see Master Ko and Master Glenn and Merla, and Master Nona, and I continued studying with Charlotte Anderson, which is his spiritual companion, and I learned a ton of stuff from her, and lots of gifts and teachings. And then I even met one of the girls in the class I ended up marrying. And she, Master Choa had brought her to me, basically. she was from Brazil. And then so I have like Kimmy here.
Hi.
I can't see you, but there's Sam in the back there. Named Samson after Masachoa. That's Masachoa's actual first name. I don't know if that's a big secret or not, but probably not. But Samson back there. And this is Samsonette. No, this is Kim over here. But she's being shy. So basically the whole pranic healing movement is like, you know, my life. It brings me all my clients. All my clients are in this group of pranic healers or Hatha Yoga. And if you want to learn more about that, you know, praniclifestyle.com, you can see all the Master Koksui's books and CDs. And he has workshops every weekend. His students have workshops practically every weekend somewhere in the world. There's workshops going on. And so that's a little bit of background on, you know, how I got started in pranic healing and, you know, how I'm on the path I am now. See you guys later.